Does your organisation do an annual staff survey? Or maybe more frequently than that? If it does, then you've probably been quite interested in the results and looking at which departments are most engaged and which ones are least engaged. Now, because I get to go into lots of different organisations in the course of my work, one of the things I've noticed is that quite often one of the departments that's nearest the bottom in a staff survey is the IT department. And I was in a company recently where someone was grumbling about the fact that the IT department was at the bottom again. Not again. He said, why do they always come out at the bottom in the staff survey? And I thought to myself, I know why. And then I realised that they didn't know why. And I started to ask around a bit, and lots of companies were finding the same thing, but nobody seemed to know why it is that the IT department nearly always comes near the bottom in a staff survey. Shall I tell you why? Well, it all has to do with the kind of people that work in IT. No, and it's not because they're inherently difficult or negative or anything. Actually, it's to do with personalities. So one of the main reasons why your IT department might be coming near the bottom in a staff survey is that a lot of the people who work in IT are introverted personality types. And a lot of the people in IT are highly intelligent. So I kind of have them in my head as the intelligent introverts. And that's a label that most people don't mind being given. But if you do, my apologies. So intelligent introverts are people who are clear thinkers, who are logical, and who tend to prefer to think and work on their own rather than interacting with other people. So, perfect profile if you're going to interact with machines all day. So why does this lead to them coming at the bottom in a staff survey? Well, there's a principle in psychology that says, if you don't know what an extrovert thinks, you haven't been listening. If you don't know what an introvert thinks, you haven't asked. And this is typically what happens, is that nobody asks an introvert, what do you think? So when the company launches the strategic plan for the next 5 years, nobody goes to the IT department and says to project managers and developers and technical support people, so what do you think of the strategic plan? In fact, usually the only time that anybody asks opinions of people in the IT department, unless of course there's a technical problem to be solved with the infrastructure or software or something, the only time anybody actually asks their opinion is in the staff survey. So it's not surprising then, is it, that you get it with both barrels? So for many people who are intelligent introverts, the only time they get the opportunity to tell their employer what they really think is in the staff survey. So they don't waste the opportunity by being generous or glossing over the truth. They actually honestly say what they think. And that's why, quite often, some of the results are quite negative. The other reason why you might find that your IT department comes out near the bottom in the staff survey is that staff surveys are not always all that logical. And most of the people who work in IT like technology, and they'll have worked with technology probably since they were still in school, and they'll have learnt basic coding as a teenager and so on. Logic is what they thrive on, because logic is the language that computers work on. So generally, the people in your IT department like logic. Now, tell me, the person who wrote your staff survey, did they have the same commitment to logic? Did they love logic just as much? I think it's unlikely. So sometimes you'll find that staff surveys aren't totally logical. Sometimes they ask the same question several times, which can be really frustrating if you're a logical thinker, because you'll tend to think, well, the answer is the answer. Why are you asking me 3 times? But sometimes, also, staff surveys don't provide as many options as you would like. So there'll be a question and there'll be 4 alternative answers. And maybe what you wanted to say isn't covered by any of those answers, which is really frustrating. And if you're frustrated with the process of answering a staff survey, you're probably not going to give really positive, upbeat answers. So that's another reason why you might find that your IT department is near the bottom in your staff survey. Of course, this also applies to other departments where there are a predominance of intelligent introverts. So, for example, you might find the same in the finance or legal department, where you tend to get people who like a lot of detail, are very good technically, and think logically, and are highly intelligent. So, having said all of this, you might be wondering, so what do we do about it? Well, let me tell you what you don't do about it. You don't decide that what you need to do is shake them all up and send in someone who will be really kind of loud and bubbly and enthusiastic and try to get them to inject a little bit of positivity into the department. Because that won't go down well at all. That person will not be welcome. What you actually need to do is to start from the fact that we need these people with this personality style in these departments. And so the first thing to do is to respect that that's who they are and how they are, and work on those terms. In fact, if you're really serious about improving the level of engagement and reducing the amount of cynicism in those departments, then that's always got to be your starting point, is you have to respect who they are and engage with them on their terms. I could talk a great deal more about that, but I'm going to leave you with just one thought. If you knew that every time you came up with an idea or you wanted to present something, you first had to win over a group of intelligent introverts, people from IT or finance or legal. You had to win them over before you could go and present it to someone else. If you knew that's what you had to do, what would you do differently?